Let's talk about Ultimate Upscale, one of my favorite methods to create high resolution, high detail images with Stable Diffusion even 1.5.
To follow my workshop, you can download my workflow on OpenArt. You see here there's a download button, and above that you have a green button that says Launch Workflow, where you can actually run my workflow in the cloud for free.
Of course, I have created a workflow for you. Let's go over the different elements. It looks a little bit complex, but don't worry, I will make it super easy for you. So let's zoom in here, look at the details. So here we have our checkpoint loader, as always. I have here my clip skip and my LoRa loader. I talk about LoRa loader and clip skip in another video of this course. Then we have here our VAE loader, our positive and negative prompt, and of course our empty latent image. Now here's already the important part. One thing you want to have before you upscale an image is high quality, high nice details in there. So for that you need a K-sampler to render the initial image. Then you want to use an upscale by latent to make it bigger, in this case 1.5. 2 is even better as the upscaling, and then use a second K-sampler in here. Now, depending on the model, you want to read on the model page what kind of sampler, scheduler, how many steps, what kind of CFG scale you want to use for that. As you can see here, in my first K-sampler, I'm using the Euler ancestral sampler with a normal scheduler, denoise 1 because we are creating the initial image, then the latent upscale, and then in the second K-sampler, I'm using DPM++ to MSDE with the Keras scheduler, denoise set to 0.5. For this, I'm using the ref animated model to render the image. Now here's another very important part, and this is especially true for working with ComfyUI. You can do probing at any step. So in this case, you can see here the latent output is not just going into my upscaler, but also into a VAE decode down here and into a preview node. So I have a preview here of the first K-sampler and then a preview of the second K-sampler. This is very important because with the high denoise, we're getting a different image. So you want to compare both of them and see if you actually get the result you desire. You can see here there's a lot of differences here. For example, when you look on the flowers on the dress, different patterns in here, different kinds of flowers in here. Even the necklace suddenly here has some bluish gemstone in here. So there are quite some changes. You want to check out if you get the results you actually desire and like between the first and the second upscale, but you can also see between the first and the second rendering of the image. But you can also see, for example, that the face has massively improved in our second rendering here. And another thing that's really important for this step is here on the right side where we have our Q prompt button, which you use to start the rendering. Below that we have View Q. You want to click on that, you have your pending and running. And when you run through the initial low resolution render of the image and you don't like the output, you can click on cancel over here and then simply render a different image to see if that is going to be better. This brings us to the next advice I want to give you for upscale. You can see here for the control after generate, you have here different options: fixed, increment, decrement, randomize. This is for the seed number. Now my suggestion here would be to go to fixed and then render an image and see, do you like the result? And if you like the result, the number from the render, the seed number, is going to stay the same. It's not going to render a new image unless, of course, you change anything about the other settings, like, for example, the words in the prompt, the LoRa setting, anything like that, that it's going to render a different image. Now, once you have that, with the second K-sampler, also set that to fixed. And then with the seed here, you can click here left and right to go up and down with the seed number. And you want to see, do you like the higher, bigger version of that, the high quality version of that? If you like that, also leave it as fixed. Then, of course, this is going up here into the latent VAE decode. In this case, I'm doing here a little bit of a trick that I like to do, and that is to image sharpen. special node here in there, and you can do a little bit of sharpening. Here it is so little sharpening, you don't actually really see it, but it's improving the data a little bit. Now, what this can do for your upscaling is when the image is sharper than the original image that you get out of the K-sampler, this can actually create more details for you and crisper details for you. This can be true for the clothing, for the hair, for the skin details, things like that. You might want to experiment here with the image sharpen setting here on how strong you want to sharpen this. This is why I have here my initial image from the second K-sampler and then a preview that is coming out of the image sharpen so that I can compare both of them and see if I like the sharpening or if I have to go a little bit higher with the sharpening, things like that. Okay, so after that, we're going to go into the Ultimate SD Upscale node over here. This is a big node, it has a lot of different settings. Most cases you don't even need to touch any of these settings, but we are still going to look at some of the more important settings here that you might want to change. So first of all, the upscale size. Usually you want to keep this at 2, but you might want to decide for other reasons at a different size, or even not upscaling at all, just rendering it with an upscale model to get a better quality with the same resolution can also be a possibility, right? Then down here you have the steps, CFG scale, the sampler and the scheduler, the denoise settings. With this you can experiment to see if you get better or worse results from that. I would highly suggest to you that you go into Discord groups and ask about tips and tricks for upscaling. There's also Discord specifically for upscaling where you can get even better expert advice on how to get the maximum out of your image upscale. Now down here you have the seams, and you might want to play around with these settings, like for example the seam fix mask blur. You might want to try a higher setting here if you have problems with your image. Now what does this do? Why are all these settings here and it says tile here? You see tile width and height 512 by 512. Now the way that the Ultimate Upscale works is that this is splitting up your image into smaller parts. They are called tiles. They are usually in a square size. And then at the end of the render process, everything is combined again to the bigger image here. Now sometimes, for example, in the background of the sky, when you have color gradients that are very soft over a larger distance, you might get at the border colors gradients that don't really match up. At that point, you want to experiment down here with the mask blur or with the seam fix mask blur, things like that, to see if you get a better result from that. Also, to see what is going on, you can look into your command window. So you can see here, from my second K-sampler, I'm getting an image with a resolution of 768 by 1152. This is because I'm only upscaling by 1.5. And then we are creating with the Ultimate Upscaler a resolution that is again times 2. So we have 1536 times 2304. And this means this is rendering 15 tiles with a resolution of 512 by 512. The good thing here is because it's individual tiles and because it's a low resolution of the tiles, we get high quality in the individual tiles, but also it is not as demanding on the GPU because it's only 512 by 512 for each of these tiles. You can see here rendering through the process, and then at the end, of course, is combining these images together. Now, another thing that's really important for the upscale is, of course, the upscale model. So you can download different models from the internet, of course. They go into the ESRGen folder inside of Automatic 1111, for example, or inside of ComfyUI. And you can see here with the loader, we can click here and we can select that from our list. These numbers for the upscaling don't really have any impact on how big you actually upscale the image. But you can also see that there are some models that are done for 1x, so they don't upscale, they just improve the image quality. So these are kind of special models that you can use to improve the image before you do the upscaling, because of course you can use multiple of the Ultimate SD upscalers in a series and do different improvements at each step if you want to. Here you can see some of my favorites, for example the 4x Ultimate Upscale. Here you can see some of my favorites. For example, the 4x Ultra Sharp is really good for things that are digital painting or anime style. Then you also have here the 8x NMKD Superscale 150,000. Really like that. It's pretty good for photorealism, for photography. And then also you have here the model, and then also you have here the 4x Foolhardy Remakri model, also very good, very much liked by the community. But you can also go to the Open Model database, and there you'll find tons of different models. A lot of them have actually preview images in here, and you can also see here that they have specific purposes why they have been created. So then again, you want to maybe render in different steps with different upscale models to improve the image quality before you actually upscale it to a bigger size. Lots of model in here. Again, like I said, go into a Discord. You can see up here, this is a Discord symbol. You can click on that. You can join their Discord and talk about expert advice on how to get the best upscaling possible. Thank you very much for watching this video and see you soon. Bye.
Oh, you're still here. So this is the end screen. There's other stuff you can watch like this or that. It's really cool. And yeah, I hope I see you soon. Leave a like if you haven't yet. And well, yeah,